Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. AITA for refusing to pay child support until my rights are established. Throwaway account. I, 29 years old, used to date my ex-girlfriend Jane, 30 years old, until I saw her with my ex-roommate Ted, 32 male. We split up, and I returned to my home state, never speaking to any of them again. Because Jane and Ted were in love and intended to marry, most of our common acquaintances ignored the situation, so I cut them all off and went on with my life. Fast forward to present, and I'm in a much better situation, with a high-paying job and having recently proposed to my fiancée, Ashley, 26 female. My life was going swimmingly. I'm not a huge social media user, but I did make a post announcing my engagement, which one of the few friends I maintained from my past noticed and apparently sent along to Jane and Ted. Jane tried to contact me, but I blocked her without reading the message since I didn't want anything to do with her. I also informed Ashley, and she proactively blocked her as well. Jane continued reaching out with bogus accounts, so I ended up deleting my account, but not before telling her that I didn't want anything to do with her and that she should leave me alone. In my perspective, there was no need for us to speak for any reason, and I just wanted to go about my business. Then Jane contacted my sister Mandy, 32 female, and informed her that I had a son. I assumed Jane was lying since it had been 6 months since I caught her cheating and moved away before changing my phone number, and years between then and now. There was plenty of time for Jane to get pregnant and contact me about it, or perhaps sue me for child support. I assumed she was making up some ridiculous narrative to get me to speak to her, so I had a lawyer write her an official letter telling her to leave me alone. The lawyer then returned to me with photographs of a 5-year-old youngster who resembled me. Jane was pregnant, but she and Ted mistook the baby for his since then. Didn't always use condoms, but I did and chose not to tell anything. They married and Ted is the legal father, but when they sought to have further children, it was discovered that Ted is infertile. Ted felt that he was less of a man since he couldn't procreate, so Jane and Ted agreed to raise the child as their own without saying anything. It wasn't until Jane came across my account and saw how great my life was that she realized her kid deserved to gain financially as well. I consented to child support and assured Jane and Ted that I would have my attorneys send over specifics concerning payment and visitation when a DNA test revealed that I was the father. Ted was irritated and refused to sign away his rights, claiming that he doesn't want me near his son. I immediately informed him that if I'm going to pay child support, I'm entitled to all of the legal rights that a father is entitled to, and that they wouldn't receive $1 from me until that time. If parents refuse, I'll just open a savings account for the child till he's an adult. Jane and Ted are accusing me of being selfish, but because it comes from them, I'm treating it with a grain of salt, so AITA. Edit, just to be clear, despite the fact that it is already written in the post, some folks are still missing it. Ted is the legal father, is on the birth certificate, and is still married to Jane, therefore I have no rights to the kid in the eyes of the American courts, but it also means Jane and Ted can't compel me to pay child support. Jane and Ted want me to have no contact with the child, but I still give them money. Discreetly, since Ted doesn't want others to know he can't procreate. Story 2. AITA for telling my mom that my brother has to move out if he doesn't bring his dog back. My brother, 31 male, requested my mother, 49 female, around 2 years ago to allow him have a dog in the home. She rejected since she is aware of his irresponsibility. I, 24 female, didn't want a dog since I knew I'd end up having to take care of it. He ended up getting a dog anyhow, behind her back. My mother and I were both annoyed at first, but we ultimately fell in love with the dog. My brother was obsessed with the puppy for almost a month before abandoning her. So, as I had predicted, I found myself having to care for her. To be honest, I began thinking of her as mine, since I was the one who did everything for her and my brother seldom paid attention to her. I became so close to her that she would even sleep in my bed with me. I suffer from severe depression and anxiety, and she always made my day better when I was having an episode. She was the highlight of my day. When I went home last Friday, she was nowhere to be seen. In a panic, I contacted my mother to inquire where the dog was, and she told me that my brother had brought her to the vet. This struck me as weird since he had never bothered to take her anyplace before. He claimed to have taken her to be neutered, but as I pressed him for further information, he became highly defensive and claimed that the veterinarians had told him nothing. It's been a week since I last saw her, and he's still complaining that the vet hasn't phoned to let him know how the dog is doing. We ended up arguing over it because I asked him what vet he brought her to so I could phone them for information. But he just becomes very furious and begins shouting at me to let the professionals do their thing. He said that it was his dog in the first place and that he could do whatever he pleased with her. I don't want to imagine the worst, but I'm virtually certain he sold her to fund his drug habit. It's worth noting that I presently pay all of the rent, bills, and so forth. My mother lost her job last year and has been unable to find another, so I have been responsible for paying for everything. Everything in my place is paid for by me. My brother is a slacker who sleeps on the living room sofa and has been unable to hold down a job for years. I was furious about the situation and informed my mother that if he did not return the dog from wherever he had taken her, I would toss him out of the apartment. She became enraged and informed me that I had no right to do so. I informed her that I had the legal right to do so, since my name is on the lease and I'm the one who pays for everything. My brother overheard the exchange and is now furious that I would force him out and perhaps leave him homeless because of a puppy. My mother labeled me a callous jerk for preferring a dog over my own brother. Ada for telling my brother he has to leave if he doesn't return the dog. Edit. My brother now claims that they transferred her to a hospital 2 hours away because she required knee surgery, and that his buddy who sold him the puppy would be caring for her while she recovers, and that once she's cured, we'll get her back. At this point, I'm not sure what to trust. I'm hoping he's speaking the truth, but I'm not sure. Why are you so guarded about it? Edit #2. I accepted some of your advice and began phoning nearby vet clinics/shelters, but thus far none have seen my dog. I also printed up posters and not only displayed them in my neighborhood, but I also drove out to the city where he says she is having knee surgery and distributed some flyers there. It's 2 a.m. here right now, so I'll start contacting vet clinics/shelters in this region later today. My brother was irritated by the flyers, and we got into another dispute over why we won't provide any information on the clinic where my dog is purportedly being treated. I warned him that if my dog was not returned by Friday, he would no longer be residing with me. He became quite unhappy and left the flat, never to return. I'm praying he stays away, but I also want my puppy back. Edit #3. I'm not sure how to put an update on here, but there's not much to say. My brother went about a week ago and hasn't returned. I was never able to find my dog. But according to my mother, who is still in communication with my brother, he continues promising her that when she heals, she would get my dog back. I'm not sure whether he's telling the truth or if he's simply crazy. Probably the latter. Update. I know many of you have requested for an update on this, but I put it off for so long because a stupid part of me was hopeful that after 2 weeks, I'd get my puppy back. As many of you have undoubtedly guessed, it has been 2 weeks since my dog went missing, and I still haven't gotten her back. I tried to locate her as many of you advised. I tried calling animal shelters, clinics, and hospitals in my region, but had no success. I also distributed flyers in my city and an hour's drive from where my brother stated she was having knee surgery. I haven't heard anything about it either. When my brother discovered I had put the flyers, he became enraged and we got into a furious confrontation. He left the flat and is no longer residing here, and he has not attempted to return, as far as I'm aware. My mother was unhappy at first, but I think she chose not to quarrel with the guy she relies on for money, haha. My brother never told me the truth about what occurred. My mother is still in communication with him via the phone, and she has informed me that he is continuing to perpetuate the lie. They were apparently chatting yesterday, and he assured her again that I will get my dog back once she heals. At this point, I'm not sure why he's sticking with the lie. I wasn't going to post an update, since there wasn't much to say, but when I arrived home today, I discovered that my mother had thrown away all of my dog's toys, food bowls, bed, and the bag of dog food she had never finished. So I suppose that's all there is to it. I wish I could offer you a more upbeat news. Thank you for all of your kind words and insights on the matter. I genuinely appreciate them.